Hello everyone, this is the day 7 of the IGA fundamentals, and this is the part of the entire 30-day foundational series on identity security. So here today we'll be talking about mover process. So in the mover process you have access changes with role transition. So this happens ideally whenever a user joins an organization, right? When they join an organization, they join and then their role gets changed. Let's say they are moved into a manager role, or they are moved from support to an engineering role. Definitely the level of access that they had, access 1 and access 2, will be different. Okay, but this is where we are moving their what roles, departments and responsibility. The life cycle stage when a user changes roles, department and responsibility is when you set up all your mover rules. It requires updating the access rights to manage the new role, critical for avoiding privilege creeps, keeping old and new access. We should never be keeping any of the old access, because there will be access 1 and let's say this user is never using access 1. There could be a attacker trying to move across, doing some reconnaissance, and then figures out that there is an account, tries to do a brute force attack, okay, and then gets the credential. Eventually he'll be able to create damage on the system. Okay, so that is one of the main reason why these accounts are not lying around, and it has to be um, kind of, you need to move them out. Okay, so then here is a small example where you can see how the role transformation is happening. You had the incorrect access right, users had outdated permissions, then a role change happened, user transition into a new role. Okay, permissions are updated and they now have the appropriate right. So the person is actually traveling, moving through a role change, getting the right access, and then the access is correct means they have reached the milestone. Fine. So we'll move on. So some of the key activities that you will see here will be: how do you detect role department changes in HR system? How do you remove old access? Grant new role based access? Review and approve exceptions or temporary. See, in organizations, right? You cannot have like a fixed set of rules. So this exceptions or temporary access becomes a very important point here, because let's say there is a certain process that you're following, process 1, for a certain set of users, for a certain set of application now, and that could be users logging in to an application from internal network only. Okay, but imagine there is a process 2 for a certain set of new users where they are external, they are, let's say, suppliers. They will never be able to get inside. So how do I create an exception for them to log into this application, provided security is intact and there is right business justification? Exception process plays a major role. You cannot build a system by simply saying, okay, this is it. You need to have that exception process in place. Okay. And why it matters? It keeps access aligned, because a user moving from one stage to another stage, access 10 access, 20 access, it is getting aligned, right? Maybe future they are getting more access or less access. But imagine here 10, here 30, and their subordinate has 20. So definitely there are something wrong on the access level, and those 10 could be orphaned, not being used for attackers to come and attack and compromise them. So this reduces the security risk from excessive entitlements and ensures compliance. For anything on the IGA world, you'll have to tag it with compliance. So examples in organizations that we can see is analyst promoted to manager. Very rare, like an analyst promoting to manager, but analyst promoted to an engineer, to a lead, to a manager. Let's say one of the example. So old role access to the project report, new role dashboard access approvals, and system automatically updates the access. Tool HR will update IGA system, and IGA will update the Octaping access management with a group. So HR will say, okay, this user is promoted. Few groups will be added. These groups will be synced across to Octaping system, and then the user will be able to perform their function. And common risk, privilege creep, insider threat, and audit failures. And once your audit is failed, you're non-compliant, and then you have to pay fines. Okay, so some of the interview tips on the mover. Again, it's a very small concept, but what is privilege creep? When users accumulate excess access rights as they change their roles responsible like respectively, and by automating access updates via role-based provisioning and access reviews, mentions RBAC, ABAC models, and IGA tools, right? So you can add these. RBAC, ABAC we'll discuss in the next class. Okay, like what is RBAC and ABAC? Quick assessment: choose a sample case, engineer plus team lead, and see what has been removed, what has been added. And you can also ask this to your IT IGA team member. Like let's say a new hire joins or people get promoted from one role to another. Where is that workflow created? And when you know that, and when you try to explain those to the interview, that is actually going to help you. So with that, we wrap up today's session, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much.